So when it comes to things like busing, for example, how did you guys handle that situation?
That's been a huge challenge for us here in Perrysburg. So in Ohio, there's there's a law that's in place, number one, that says that school districts are required to provide transportation for students in K through 8. So we have to provide that transportation to those students. 9 through 12 high school is not required by law, but we've done it for a long time to transport our high school students that are in need of transportation. So when with COVID and the restrictions and having that social distancing, one of the things that happened is for our 4 elementary schools this year, we had to add 7 buses just to transport the same number of students as we did last year.
Wow.
And where do we get those 7 buses? We had to take them from the high school. So right now we haven't been offering high school transportation. One of the other things about transportation is that once you offer it, you can't take it away. So we have an online virtual option for families who don't want to send their students. And we had an opt-out period like the second semester. So we had a couple hundred students that opted back into traditional school. And so we had to save seats on the buses for those students because we're required to. Now that those students are back, we're going to be resuming some high school transportation where we're going to have kind of shuttles. So we're not going to do the door-to-door stuff that we've done in the past, but we're going to have pickup points throughout the community. If a student needs a ride, they can get to those points. We'll shuttle them in from there. So it's been really challenging for families and for students.
And based on what you just said, so virtual learning, is that still an option today for Perrysburg students?
It is. We began the school year with about 560 students of our 5,700 that said, we're not comfortable in a classroom environment. And we wanted to provide a bridge for those students to stay connected to us and to come back. So at the semester, we said, we know a lot more about COVID and how it works, and families have dealt with it. So we wanted to provide that opportunity for those students to come back to the district. And we had about 150 or so that did do just that. So we have now just under 400 students that are in that virtual environment. And we're hoping that as we get into next school year, they're more comfortable and maybe see those students show back up. But moving forward in terms of what we have to offer students in the future, this might be something that we're going to have to continue to offer. So we're in the process of evaluating that right now.
And how is the virtual learning done? Is that done with teachers and a camera, or is that done on a separate platform?
So we have a separate platform. So for those 500 students, that would be the size of one of our elementary buildings. So when you think about all the teachers that are required to teach, we just don't have that capability. And these students are K-12. So those 500 aren't just elementary. There's some seniors, there's some kindergartners, and everything in between. So we went to a platform where it's kind of self-paced. We do have some teachers that are assigned to check in with students to do some fine tuning if they need a little bit of extra support. So we have 4 teachers that are assigned to support those students, but it's a self-pace, and that's different than sitting in a classroom and getting that face-to-face instruction.
So let me ask you about something state level. What happens with state testing? How has that affected what happens on our local level?
Yeah. This is one of those things, Eddie, I'm going to give my opinion and not those of the Perrysburg School District.
Sure.
So, the federal government has required all states to have a certain number of tests that they have to administer. So the feds step in and say, you have to administer these tests or you don't get state or federal funding. So every state opts in. And then on top of that, the Ohio Department of Education, the state of Ohio has additional tests that Ohio says we have all these federal tests. Now we want these state tests to be administered. So in a time where we're really struggling to get kids back in the classroom, every hour of the day of instruction is really precious. very soon we're going to have to set aside time to test the students. Now, at the state level, they're saying, you know what, we want to know how our students are doing, and we want to be able to compare it with past years to get a measurement to see where we stand. Our teachers are doing that every single day in our district. So for example, all of our algebra teachers at Perrysburg High School are administering the same unit test. They can compare themselves to not only the class across the hall, but they can also compare it to what last year's class did. We do individual like star reading and math assessments for our elementary students and other younger students. We can benchmark those against how they did last year, how they did against classmates in previous years. We do that all the time. It guides our instructional plan. So we really don't need the state test to give us that information. We're living it every single day. But I certainly understand that. But I'd love to have those hours back instead of having to carve out time for state testing. That's challenging.
Tom, thank you again for all you guys are doing. I truly appreciate it. Everyone, this has been Tom Hosler, Superintendent of Perrysburg Schools. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Coffee with Eddie. We will see you next month.